Leo was born on a quiet winter night, the snow gently falling outside the small hospital where his mother, Elena, had just given birth. The labor had been long and exhausting, but when the cries of her newborn son filled the room, Elena's heart swelled with love and relief. Her husband, Michael, stood by her side, overwhelmed with emotion as he looked at their baby boy for the first time. The nurses quickly cleaned Leo and wrapped him in a soft blanket before placing him in Elena's arms. She gazed down at her son, noticing his thick, dark hair and tiny, delicate features. But when she looked into his eyes, something unusual caught her attention. Leo's eyes were a deep, intense shade of blue, unlike anything she had ever seen. There was something almost otherworldly about them, but she dismissed it as the wonder of new life. She smiled, brushing a finger over his cheek as she whispered, "He's perfect." Michael leaned in to get a closer look at his son. He too was struck by the intensity of Leo's eyes, but like Elena, he thought nothing of it. They were both too lost in the joy of the moment to notice the strange glimmer in Leo's gaze. As the nurse returned to check on the baby, she smiled warmly and reached down to take him for his first round of routine tests. "He's a beautiful baby boy," she said, her voice full of kindness. But as she gently lifted Leo from Elena's arms, the baby opened his eyes wide, and the nurse gasped. Leo's eyes locked with the nurse's, and within seconds, her expression twisted from one of warmth to pure terror. Her body began to convulse, her features contorting as a low growl escaped her throat. Michael and Elena watched in horror as the nurse's form shifted, her skin growing rough and coarse, her limbs elongating into something grotesque and inhuman.
But before we dive deeper into Leo's tragic journey, I want to take a quick moment to ask you to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this story. And hey, here's something exciting. Subscribe within the next month, and you'll automatically be entered into a $50 lucky draw. Who knows? You might just be our lucky winner. And you definitely don't want to miss out on our upcoming crazy stories. Now, back to Leo's tale.
In a matter of moments, the kind nurse had transformed into a snarling beast. The creature, driven by an uncontrollable rage, turned towards Elena and Michael, its eyes wild with fury. Michael instinctively stepped in front of his wife, shielding her from the creature's wrath, while the room erupted into chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed in, their faces masks of fear and confusion as they tried to restrain the beast. Elena clutched Leo tightly to her chest, her mind reeling with disbelief. She couldn't understand what was happening, how a moment of pure joy had turned into a nightmare. As the medical staff struggled to contain the creature, Michael realized that the transformation had begun the moment the nurse looked into Leo's eyes. It was as if some dark force had been unleashed, turning a gentle woman into a monstrous beast. He knew then that something was terribly wrong. The hospital staff finally managed to sedate the beast, but not before several people were injured in the struggle. The creature was taken away, and the room fell into a stunned silence. Elena, trembling with fear, looked down at Leo, who was now quietly resting in her arms, seemingly unaware of the havoc he had just caused. Michael turned to the doctor, his voice shaky as he demanded, "What's happening? What's wrong with our son?" The doctor, still in shock, could only shake his head. I don't know. This is beyond anything we've ever seen." The gravity of the situation began to sink in. Leo's eyes, those deep, intense blue eyes, were not normal. They possessed a terrible power, one that could transform anyone who looked into them into a raging beast. Fear and panic gripped Elena and Michael as they realized the danger their son posed. They were terrified, not only for their own safety, but for the safety of everyone around them. The joy of Leo's birth had been shattered by the realization that their child carried a dark and uncontrollable force within him. Desperate to protect Leo and the world from the power of his eyes, Elena and Michael made the difficult decision to keep their son isolated. They would tell no one of what had happened that night, and they would do whatever it took to keep Leo hidden from the world. On his 17th birthday, Leo made a wish. It wasn't for anything extravagant. He just wanted to experience the world, go to school, make friends, and live a normal life. His parents, moved by his simple wish and determined to find a solution, took him to a renowned scientist who specialized in rare conditions. Dr. Grant had spent years studying cases like Leo's and believed he could help. After extensive research and experimentation, Dr. Grant developed a pair of custom color lenses that would shield others from the effects of Leo's gaze. These lenses were designed to filter out the dangerous elements in Leo's eyes, allowing him to interact with the world without causing harm. Before Leo could start his new life, Dr. Grant insisted on testing the lenses. "We need to be certain they work before you step out into the world," he explained. Leo agreed, understanding the gravity of the situation. One evening, Dr. Grant and Leo ventured out together. The streets were quiet, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. They chose to test the lenses in a less crowded area to minimize risk. Leo was nervous, his heart pounding as they approached a small open cafe. Dr. Grant reassured him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Remember, just keep calm. If anything feels off, close your eyes immediately," Dr. Grant instructed. Leo nodded, adjusting the lenses on his eyes as they entered the cafe. The warm, inviting atmosphere seemed a world away from the isolation he had known. As they walked in, Leo felt a mix of excitement and fear. He had never been this close to strangers before. The barista behind the counter greeted them with a smile. Leo hesitated, but Dr. Grant encouraged him to order something. Leo took a deep breath and approached the counter, locking eyes with the barista. She didn't flinch or change at all. Relief washed over him as he realized the lenses were working. They ordered coffee and sat down at a table. As they sat there, Dr. Grant observed everyone around them, looking for any signs of trouble. But everything was normal. Leo was overjoyed, a wide grin spreading across his face. "It works," he whispered, hardly able to believe it. Dr. Grant smiled, pleased with the success of his invention. As they left the cafe, Leo felt an overwhelming sense of hope. For the first time, he could imagine a life beyond the confines of his home. With the lenses proven to work, Leo began attending the local high school. He quickly made friends and even joined the throwball team, where he excelled. But it wasn't just school and sports that made his new life special. It was a girl named Lily. Lily was in several of Leo's classes, and from the moment they met, he was captivated by her. She was kind, funny, and had a warmth that drew him in. They spent more and more time together, studying, laughing, and talking about their dreams. For Leo, it was like living in a dream. Everything he had ever wished for was coming true. As the weeks passed, Leo and Lily grew closer. They would often meet after school at the cafe where Leo and Dr. Grant had tested the lenses. It became their special place. Leo found himself falling deeply in love with her, and it wasn't long before he confessed his feelings. To his amazement, Lily felt the same way. Their relationship blossomed, and for a while, Leo was happier than he had ever been. He was thriving in school, excelling in sports, and in love with a girl who made him feel like the world was finally within his reach. One day, during a particularly intense throwball match, tragedy struck. Leo was in the middle of the game, focused on winning when the ball came flying towards him. It was a powerful throw, and before Leo could react, it hit him square in the face. He stumbled, feeling the impact reverberate through his skull. As he regained his balance, panic set in. He could feel that one of his lenses had been dislodged. In a moment of terror, he shut his eyes and dropped to the ground, frantically searching for the missing lens. His teammates surrounded him, confused and concerned, but Leo couldn't explain. He couldn't open his eyes. The lens was gone, lost somewhere on the field. His heart raced as he realized the danger everyone around him was in. He needed to get out of there before it was too late. With his eyes tightly shut, Leo bolted from the field, ignoring the shouts of his coach and teammates. He didn't stop running until he reached the safety of his home. Bursting through the door, he shouted for his parents, his voice trembling with fear. "What happened?" his father asked, alarmed by Leo's state. "The lens. I lost it," Leo gasped, his voice shaking. His parents acted quickly, drawing the curtains and turning off the lights to ensure no one would accidentally meet Leo's gaze. They knew the consequences could be catastrophic. Later that evening, Dr. Grant arrived with a replacement lens, but the damage had already been done. The incident at the game had spread like wildfire through the school, and people were starting to ask questions. Leo's confidence was shattered, and he was terrified of what might happen if he lost control again. Despite the new lens, Leo began withdrawing from everyone, including Lily. He was afraid of hurting her, of the beast within him ruining the life he had built. Lily noticed the change in him and tried to reach out, but Leo pushed her away, terrified that his curse would one day harm her. But Lily refused to give up on him. One evening, she went to Leo's house, determined to talk to him. Leo's parents reluctantly let her in, but warned her to be careful. She found Leo sitting in his room, the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Leo, what's going on? Why are you pushing me away?" Lily asked, her voice filled with concern. Leo hesitated, but he knew he couldn't keep the truth from her any longer. With a heavy heart, he told her everything. But fate had other plans. A few weeks later, Lily and Leo were walking home together after school. They were taking their usual route through a quiet park when a group of rowdy teens approached them, looking for trouble. They started harassing Leo and Lily, trying to provoke a fight. Leo tried to keep his cool, but when one of the boys shoved Lily, something inside him snapped. In the heat of the moment, Leo's anger flared, and without thinking, he glared at the boy. The lens slipped. The boy's eyes widened as they locked with Leo's, and in an instant, he transformed into a monstrous beast. The other teens screamed in horror, and chaos erupted. The beast, driven by rage, lunged at Leo, knocking him to the ground. Lily screamed, trying to pull the beast away from Leo, but it was too strong. Leo struggled to keep his eyes shut, knowing that if he opened them, the situation would only get worse. But he could hear the snarling, the tearing, and he knew that he had lost control. By the time the police arrived, it was too late. The beast had caused unimaginable destruction before it was finally subdued. Leo was taken to the hospital, but he couldn't face what he had done. Lily was safe, but the look of fear and sorrow in her eyes broke him. Leo was forced to leave town, just as he had feared. The authorities were searching for him, and even Dr. Grant couldn't protect him now. He went into hiding, moving from place to place, never staying anywhere too long. The lenses, once his hope for a normal life, had become a reminder of the monster he could never escape. Lily tried to contact him, but Leo couldn't bring himself to respond. He knew that as long as they were together, she would never be safe. And so, he let her go, choosing to live in solitude, away from the world and away from the person he loved most. The life Leo had once wished for was gone, replaced by a lonely existence filled with regret and sorrow. He wandered from place to place, always on the run, knowing that the beast within him could never truly be tamed. No matter where he went or how hard he tried to control it, the curse of his eyes remained, a constant reminder that he could never have a normal life. Leo was condemned to a life of solitude, haunted by the love he lost and the lives he could never fully touch, forever trapped by the very thing he once believed could bring him happiness.